Hey there, Evan Nathaniel Grimm. Welcome to my February 2024 forecast for all 12 zodiac signs. I'm going to cover the key themes, and then I'm going to dive into what each new and full moon this month means for your zodiac sign. So let's share the screen here so we can look ahead at the same visuals. This is just a temporary visual for right now, but I do want to kind of overview some of the high level transits, aspects that make February unique. So first we have Mars and Venus in Capricorn, and then eventually forming a conjunction in Aquarius, as you can see actually here in this chart. We're going to have an uptick in Aquarian energy in February. So, January, we had Pluto finally going into Aquarius, but the thing that makes February distinct is that it sort of piles on this Aquarian energy through the lens of Mars, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun. And I think that this will, and even an Aquarius new moon, and I think that this will really give us a firmer sort of preview of what Pluto and Aquarius will look like. We also have Saturn this month heading into new territory from where it was in 2023. So it got up to 7 degrees of Pisces in 2023. In February, it will surpass that. As you can see here, it's at 8 degrees of Pisces. We will have a Chiron North Node conjunction this month. And, we will also have a Sun, Mercury, and Saturn conjunction at the very end of the month. So those are some of the dominant transits. We have no planetary retrogrades, which means that, momentum is on your side. You should be able to advance rapidly towards your goals. And there should not be quite as many hiccups as a retrograde season. And so my advice is definitely to have very ambitious manifestation plans and to, set aggressive targets for those plans. Mercury enters Aquarius February 4th, by the way, and Pisces February 22nd. Mars enters Aquarius February 12th. Venus enters Aquarius February 16th. The Sun enters Pisces February 18th. February 16th to 18th, there's a big Aquarius stellium. So let's just go to that really quickly. So if I was to show you, as you can see down here, sort of in that middle part of February, we're going to have Pluto, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and the Sun all in Aquarius at the same time. And so I think that the middle of February will be the most action-packed, and especially, with Aquarius being an air sign, it's so much about communication. And we have in the United States a presidential election. So there's just going to be a lot happening in the middle of February, whether it's technology or politics, like it's all kind of firing at the same time. So just wanted to call that out. We do have Mars and Venus conjunct Pluto from February 16th to 23rd, approximately. As I said earlier, the Sun, Saturn, Mercury conjunction is Feb 28. And then the Chiron North Node conjunction is February 19th at 16 degrees of Aries. And that can be a very big breakthrough in maybe your healing journey or how you stand up for yourself in something, but also maybe how you let go of selfish needs in order to serve others or heal others. And then we have Venus square Chiron February 5th to 8th. That will be, I think, a slightly difficult transit for a lot of people, especially when it comes to feelings of maybe inadequacy coming out in a relationship, or feeling insecure, feeling unwelcome or unaccepted, or even feeling like there is a breakdown in trust and diplomacy. But that can also be, yet again, a healing breakthrough for some people in a relationship. So just to give you a high level trend, January closed out like a big era for everybody, and it really changed our calculus in the process as a society. So Pluto, finally went into Aquarius. This is not something that's just going to, usher in the whole utopia, quote unquote, overnight, if it ever even reaches a utopia, right? But there are underlying forces and gears which are starting to kind of rev up. And so we haven't seen a huge cataclysmic event or anything. And I didn't expect that we would, which is why, I didn't really harp on the actual ingress of like, oh, January 20th, it's going to be everything will change. Like, I didn't really see it that way. But we will in February see this uptick in Aquarian themes. And this includes maybe rapidly advancing AI, but also enormous political changes. And as Mars and Venus coalesce around Pluto, I wonder maybe if some powerful financial deals will be brokered in tech or maybe even the scientific field, but also in politics. Some big deals could get done. And with so many industries though collapsing right now, like if you think about like journalism, digital media, there's all these industries that are starting to really fall apart at the seams because partly because of just technology is democratizing things or technology can be very cruel and very neutral with Pluto. Pluto starts to destroy, right? And in Aquarius, Pluto has a destructive power through technology. So, and I don't want to take this lightly. I'm not saying that, I want anyone to lose their job. But the reality is that now that we get all this Aquarian energy in February, I think we're all going to have this kind of oh no moment where we start to realize the true implications of the fact that nobody's like really safe from these technological advancements. Like journalists, I think a lot of people are not surprised that journalism is hurting right now. But there are other industries, like let's say maybe lawyers who are also going to be impacted. And it's going to be happening really quickly. And so with the Virgo full moon, which I'll talk about in a minute, coming up this month, there could even be some pushback already in like the, different labor movements and stuff like that. But also there will be enormous power shifts, I think, towards maybe certain platforms or certain technologies and so on. Uranus is now direct, so um, momentum is accelerating. Things are happening more quickly. Uranus and Taurus can even be about money, financial related matters. But also with Taurus being so much about the land, you have to wonder if, like, as Uranus stations direct at the end of January, if there is some type of earthquake or, earth related, dare I say, disaster, there may be a fallout from that, to be honest. Chiron in the North Node could ring in some sort of health challenge this month, maybe publicly with like a leader, but even on a personal level, it's an opportunity to heal, but also to be more vulnerable, because Aries will sometimes really just kind of protect itself with its own boundaries and sense of, risk taking. And it's like, I don't need anybody. I'm self-reliant. I don't have to seek the counsel of others or seek the help of others. But like with Chiron in the North Node, it's showing people how their refusal to cooperate and their refusal to seek help from other people has kind of backed them into a corner. So let's say your whole life you refused any offer to go work for somebody and you just wanted to be an entrepreneur no matter what. But now you're in debt and you've run out of money. That would be an example of how you'd want to sort of open your mind at this point and say, well, maybe there's another way. And then the Sun, Saturn, and Mercury align at the end of the month, which may signal to me some sort of restriction on movement or information. It could also be the harbinger of a health concern. Maybe a new strain of something is going around. But the Mercury Saturn Sun conjunction, I think on a personal level, can also be this moment of clarity on a professional plan or publishing plan or contract. I mean, I think very big contracts can be signed at the end of the month because Mercury and Saturn together, I really feel are, they're very business-like and they're very realistic. And with the sun also aligning, it's sort of like what you need to do in order to advance to the next level to achieve your goals. So I don't think it's all bad, but there could be some sort of dour announcement at the same time. So now I'm just going to quickly overview the lunar cycles and then walk through each zodiac sign. So on Feb 9, we have an Aquarius new moon, and this is at 20 degrees of Aquarius. So check your chart to see if you have 20 degrees, especially in the fixed signs that will dictate the sort of importance of this. And this will mark a time, I think, to venture into new communities and forums. And I think provocative ideas will begin to flourish. So, you know, look at the fact that it squares Uranus. The new moon square Uranus is always going to be a little bit excitable. Again, I wonder about even like earthquakes, to be honest with you. But on a personal level, what is your internal sort of earthquake or shock event? Feeling all of a sudden like, I want to share this provocative idea, or I just now have arrived at this innovative concept. And so it can be very exciting in that way. The other chart ruler, Saturn, is sextile Jupiter still. So, I like the Jupiter Saturn sextile. It kind of, to me, implies that there's a possibility of growth through a structure, through a company, and within an organization or within clear parameters. So, maybe there's a promotion here for some of you. But I think ultimately this is very much an Aquarian sort of, it's an Aquarian energy. And with Mercury conjunct Pluto, some of you may see into hidden layers of reality that were once closed off to you for whatever reason, but square Jupiter as well. There's also the broad perspective on things of the connecting threads. So I actually wonder if there's an investigation here publicly that comes into play. And then we still have Mars and Venus in Cap, and Venus even trining Uranus, which means, really positive, productive shifts within communities. So I'm speaking at Conscious Life Expo this day, actually. So, that's a good example of, using this energy for networking, collaborating, and so on. So I think that overall, this is a really strong new moon, especially if you want to go in a radically new direction with your life. And then we're going to talk about now the Virgo full moon, which is very different. So there's a Virgo full moon, February 24th at 5 degrees of Virgo. And this is a little bit more of a sobering moment, at a bit of a slowdown. Virgo's more kind of patient, thoughtful, methodical, and even though it's a full moon, the chart ruler Mercury is getting into that sort of conjunction with the Sun and Saturn. So this is suddenly illuminating, I think, some of the consequences either of technology on the workforce, but with the Chiron North Node conjunction, you have to wonder if some health related thing is slowing us down. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine that there's no health related implication here. Because with the Sun in Pisces here highlighting Saturn, Saturn in Pisces to me is very much about long-term like chronic health issues. So any like chronic health issues that may have arisen out of, well, the last few years, or from other habits or behaviors in society, something, yeah, some sort of consequences coming to light about our choices regarding science or, experimentation with certain things. Like, what are the long-term consequences? So we may start to think about that, but I think a lot of it too is about, what is the impact of these new AI tools on our jobs? So we may start to see, like I said, some sort of like labor movement, especially with Mars and Venus and Aquarius. That's very much about like fighting for, more egalitarian sorts of values, and like justice and fairness. So now I'm going to walk through each zodiac sign. So you want to prioritize your rising sign because that's going to set the tone for your entire chart. And then check your sun and your moon as secondary messages. Now, the reason the sun and moon can be gauged in a forecast is because of what's called a derivative chart. So every sign has a relative housal, as I call it, a house position to the other sign. So Taurus is the 12th sign relative to Gemini. Leo is the 5th sign relative to Aries, and so on. So I create derivative charts to concoct the forecasts. In this case, I'm going to just take that first new moon as a placeholder. I'm still going to talk about the other full moon. But I'm just going to use this again to discuss the energies of the month ahead for each sign. So let's start off with Aries. So Aries, you have the Aquarius new moon, February 9th, in your 11th house. And this is a really brilliant new moon for you to jump in to a new friend group or a new community, or to go to a conference, or to launch some new project on social media. That would also be very productive, in my opinion. We have at this point that square to Uranus, which is now direct in your second house. So potentially you're monetizing something on social media, or you're engaged with a new community in a way that maybe opens a new financial opportunity for you. So pay attention to the conversations that people like, where the conversations go. If you have a friend who mentions, oh, I have, this job opportunity, or my friend has this job opportunity, pay attention to that. So it might be very unexpected and very serendipitous in that way. We still have Mars and Venus for you in your 10th house. So you are very much focused on your career. And that also indicates that positive turning points can occur in your career. Then the other chart ruler, Saturn, in the 12th house. You may be working to build your spiritual foundation still. That's going to be obviously a big feature when Saturn's in the 12th house. And then we have a Virgo full moon, February 24th at 5 degrees of Virgo, and that occupies your 6th house of, health, daily routines, and so on and so forth. So that Virgo full moon I think that will illuminate something that you're ready to walk away from, actually, regarding a work project, or you may get a new perspective on your health and the impact of something on your health, especially in that 12th house. Because once the sun goes into your 12th house, you may be looking at, okay, how do my nighttime habits affect my health? Or are there any addictive behaviors that I've had that, really impact my health negatively? So I think after this Virgo full moon, you'll have a better sense of like, okay, what are the daily health routines and work routines that I need to commit to, such that I don't feel drained all the time, and I don't feel so unhealthy. And then, with the Sun, Saturn, and Mercury coming together in your 12th house at the end of the month, I could really see that as a breakthrough in your spirituality in that 12th house. So um, you may suddenly develop a bit more of a focused mindset, in the sense of, choosing suddenly to meditate, choosing to do more breath work, choosing to do something that's very sober, ideally, because if you were to indulge the dark side of Pisces for this, it does feel like a bit of like a sense of being lost, right? And almost feeling like you have to further withdraw from reality or further disconnect yourself. So try to use the end of February as an Aries to really focus on mental wellness, physical wellness, and spiritual well-being as well. And you could even pick up some sort of sacred texts or spiritual documents around that time at the end of the month. But Yeah, that Virgo full moon also features a Mars-Venus conjunction, and that's going to be in your 11th house. So with the Mars-Venus conjunction in the 11th, I think a bright spot is that even by the end of February, there continues to be a focus on socializing. Like it is a highly social month for you. And so ideally find communities or friends or groups who are a positive influence on you, obviously, not as opposed to a negative one. So I think like the quality of the communities that you seek in February says everything about how your month will go, because the downstream effects will definitely ensue. So let's go on to Taurus. The Aquarius new moon, Feb 9, is in your 10th house. So that will definitely open a new door for you in your career, in your public life, in what you take responsibility for, and how you project yourself publicly. So some of you are starting a new job there. Some of you are, um, maybe even like taking on a different type of role as a parent. And, I think it's an exciting new career, though. It's a little bit more experimental. It's transformative with Pluto there. And square Uranus, it sort of serves the new you, and it almost like facilitates this sense of continual but rapid growth. So it can be like a career that's very liberating in a way. Mars and Venus are conjunct in the ninth, so you're investing maybe in travel and publishing, in education as well along the way. And then, oh, and sorry, for Aries earlier, you do have that Chiron North Node conjunction in your first house. So definitely some health breakthroughs, like I talked about, some big health breakthroughs in February for you. But anyways, for Taurus, yeah, again, that Aquarius new moon, very obvious to me. That's like a new sort of opening in your career. And I think it's a positive one, like I said, because it is going to help with that Uranian acceleration. And then we have a Virgo full moon, Feb 24, and that's in your sort of fifth house, 11th house axes. So the full moon in the fifth, by the end of February here, it's, you may be wrapping up a creative project. You may be saying goodbye to somebody who you were casually dating or taking that to a new level. You may be investing in your creativity differently. And then with Mars and Venus now in the 10th house by that point, I really think there's a lot of connections that you're making in your career with people like executives or bosses or managers. Maybe you're monetizing something differently about your job, but I really like the connections, the professional connections you're making at the end of February. And then around this time, we also have Chiron in the North Node conjunct in the 12th house. So the Chiron North Node conjunction in the 12th house to me is very much about, actually, Aries, I mentioned this too, but like, spiritual well-being, mental well-being, and spiritual healing in your case. So you could have a major breakthrough in the way that you nurture yourself spiritually. So if you felt blocked or disconnected from spirit, or you felt like, purpose is lacking, uh, you may find that. You may find that by venturing into a new a branch of spirituality or a new healing modality. So I think that there's a positive shift going on there. And then we do have Saturn and the Sun and Mercury in the 11th house by the end of February. And, the 11th house is about communities. So I would lean on at the end of February, I would either lean on or lean into your communities, because that's where you can kind of like prove yourself, and you can prove your ability to take ownership over a community or a group. and maybe somehow that's healing for you, right? Like maybe that socializing is nurturing you. But yeah, I think overall, February, it's a short month, but I think for Tauruses, you can have a really electrifying new beginning in your career. So I think that that's great. All right, let's go to Gemini's next and see what's ahead for them. So Gemini's, you have the Aquarius new moon in your ninth house, and the ninth house is always going to deal with things like long distance travel, publishing, higher education, philosophy. So the Aquarius new moon in the ninth house, it could mean that there's sort of a new beginning, that you're, embarking on a new journey or trip, or again, educational path, or maybe you're starting to work on something you eventually want to publish, or you're marketing or advertising something. And so I think for a lot of you, though, it's probably a new worldview. I mean, with Pluto in the ninth now, you're really transforming how you think about, education potentially, or life generally. So this new moon could be the new perspective on whatever Aquarian thing. It could be technology or some other really sort of thing. And we have Mars and Venus in the eighth house. So there's probably a financial focus along the way, a focus on, different investment strategies. I would imagine you will revisit some investments around this time, or try to, sort of continue to recalibrate some of your finances. And also with Saturn in the 10th, like you continue to feel a lot of pressure in your career. So maybe you're adjusting your perspective to allow your career to continue thriving. And then with the square to Uranus in the 12th, you're continuing to make spiritual upgrades. So unexplainable spiritual phenomena may be occurring in your life generally right now, and maybe that's changing your outlook. And then the Virgo full moon is in your fourth house on February 24th. And a full moon in the fourth could be the completion of a home related project. It could actually be moving, like you could be moving homes, or just changing some dynamic within your family. Um, and at that time, you have the Sun and Mercury also in the 10th. So a focus on the career at the same time, or on parenting. So you may, change the way you parent at that time or something like that. But I think for a lot of you, it's just a focus on like getting things done and being really productive at work and manifesting what you want in your career. We have Mars and Venus conjunct in the ninth house. So continuing to invest in new perspectives on Aquarian sort of related themes. And the Chiron North Node conjunction is in your 11th. So I would look to friends, networks, and communities as a way to heal. So if you're looking for a support system, like this is the time to build one. Especially if you moved, like you may need new friends. But if you're a Gemini and you're struggling in any way, turn to friendship. I mean, anybody could, right? But especially for you, I think that that's a good direction to go into. And by the way, just one thing to mention for everybody, I think what makes February special is that, it is that uptick in Aquarian energy, but it's going to give us more tools to work with to really articulate the transformation that we want to sort of undergo. So now, though, let's go to Cancers. Cancers, you have the Aquarius new moon, February 9th in your eighth house. And that's all about shared investments, finances, resources, debt, spending. I mean, the eighth house is very much about money, but it can also be about the psyche, the subconscious, and that domain, and the occult. So the new moon in the eighth, potentially you're making a big investment decision related to Aquarian topics, like an app, or like technology or social media, or um, I don't want to say crypto because I'm not like always big on that, but you know what I mean. There's some sort of novel investment strategy that you're picking up on. Or maybe you're investigating astrology further, or or some other occulted subject, or you're looking at the intersection of psychology and, astrology and science or something. So with the square to Uranus in the 11th, I think that friendships, communities, and groups are a source of innovation and excitement and new ideas. So tap into your networks, tap into to those groups and sort of source, um, new concepts or new ideas that you can bring back into the eighth house and maybe invest in or grow monetarily something, improve your position financially. You still have Mars and Venus in the seventh at this time. So I think you're patching up or sorting out something in a significant relationship at that time. And then we have a Virgo full moon in your third house and on February 24th. And at that time, you could be wrapping up a writing project or some communications related endeavor. You could be completing an exam or some like class, or you could be starting a class or just communicating emotionally with somebody. And then for some of you, you're simply traveling locally or something. And then Mars and Venus are conjunct at that point in your eighth house. So, relationships maybe are intensifying, or you're trying to figure out how to merge bank accounts with somebody or possessions with somebody, or how to build wealth with a financial partner or business partner. And then, with the Chiron North Node conjunction by the end of the month in your 10th house, that could really set you on a new sort of career track as a healer, but it could also even lead to a healing moment with a parent, or um, maybe there's a parent here who has a health setback, to be honest. So if you're a Cancer, I kind of wonder about like family health. I wonder if something will come up there. But otherwise, I do think this is a pretty interesting month. I mean, maybe the health related thing with a parent is what the eighth house is about. Like maybe there isn't like there is an inheritance or, something that you have to work out with someone in the family. So, just to be transparent, that could be a daunting February, but I think for a lot of you, it's very much more about how am I transforming my relationship to financing and investing? So kind of a complex February for Cancers. Next, we have Leos to go through. So let's see what's coming for Leos in February. So Leos, you have the Aquarius new moon in your seventh house, February 9th. That will definitely give you a lot more tools to sort of transform relationships how you want, or it will give you more details on how Pluto will start to transform your relationships over the next 2 decades. So this new moon is pretty major for you. You could form a new relationship or a new connection with someone who has a potential as a business partner. Maybe you form a new best friend or something, or significant friendship. But it could definitely be a romantic relationship coming in. But for Leos, with Pluto in the seventh now, the relationships you're in or the relationships that you seek are undergoing massive change at this point. So with all this energy coming into the seventh house for you, there will be maybe new candidates, and new potential partners coming in, and it's going to give you sort of different ways to think about connection and partnership. So with Aquarius being very communal, this could be about like entering into a new community or friend group. But Aquarius is also unconventional. So maybe you're starting a relationship with somebody who is not your typical, you're not typically attracted to that type of person, but here you are suddenly drawn to them. So, new relationships can definitely begin for Leos right away at the beginning of the month, pretty much. And square Uranus, these people may inspire you to think differently about your career prospects. And I think your career is accelerating here because Uranus and Jupiter are direct in your 10th house by this time. It feels like you're much more um, sort of aware of all the available doors and, random unexpected promotions or opportunities can definitely come up in your career around this time. And Mars and Venus are still in the sixth here, so working really hard. I mean, in the sixth, like you're whether it's exercise or work projects, like you're really putting a lot of energy into these things. But I think ultimately, the first half of February and even the second half, honestly, is about how you how you're seeking to transform your relationships or how the relationships are about to transform you. So you will start to undergo, I think, a pretty dramatic shift in who you are over the next, the whole month, I think. But especially by the time we get into late February, that Mars Venus conjunction that comes up in the final part of February, that could actually also be the genesis of a relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be right on February 9th. And then we have a Virgo full moon, Feb 24. That's in your second house of money and natural talents and self-worth. So for a lot of Leos, you may be adjusting your salary at that time. You may be changing jobs. You may also change your values even. And the way that you value work will change potentially there. Maybe there's new people coming into that seventh house around this time who are changing your values and helping you see work differently. And then there's some energy in the eighth house at that time. So maybe you're also starting a business or, changing some structure to your business or your investment strategy. And then you have Chiron in the North Node in your ninth house. So really changing your entire view on healing, your philosophy on healing, and how what role you play in that healing journey. With Aries, it's a lot about, or with Chiron here in Aries, it's a lot about, again, asking for help and not trying to do everything on your own. So maybe that's a nice dovetail with the seventh house. There's people coming in to say, no, we support you and we want your success and we want you to be successful and we're cheering for you. And maybe that's encouraging you to see your healing journey with new eyes. And so, the net of February for Leos is to welcome new partnerships of all kinds, whether that's romantic, platonic, or professional, because they can not only maybe set you on a good course in your career, but they may also change your entire value system and your philosophy on life. So ultimately, a really good, I think, a really healthy time. And with Pluto, yes, Pluto can be intense, but I think right now with Mars and Venus and Mercury coming into the seventh, it's just like a very you're realizing it's nothing to fear. It's actually again, it's almost like the change that you needed in a lot of ways, that your old relationships were kind of languishing. So that's Leo. All right, on to Virgos. Let's see how February looks for you. What transformation journey is being highlighted? So Virgos, the Aquarius new moon, February 9th, is occurring in your sixth house. And so now that Pluto's there, the next 2 decades is going to be a transformation of how you relate to your health, how you take care of yourself, how you look into nutrition, fitness, wellness, but also how you work through projects and how you work with others like coworkers. And so this particular Aquarius new moon may be the beginning of a new work project, of a new health routine, of a new wellness plan, and squaring Uranus in the ninth. You might even be craving a long distance trip to a completely random location in the world as a way to maybe work differently or look into other health practices or even live briefly as like a digital nomad. I mean, I could see that possibly in February for some of you. And so, with Pluto coming in, like I said, it's a bit of like a murky ingress because we don't feel the sort of like ripple effects of Pluto overnight. But I think as we get planets in Aquarius, it's giving you the tools to understand and map out what you want your transformation journey to look like. Now, the other chart ruler, Saturn, is in your seventh house, keep in mind. So you're continuing to focus on long-term partnership and how you can commit to someone long-term. Eventually, or you do have Mars and Venus in the fifth at this time, which supports creativity, creative works, and I think that's fun. But then I think the bigger lunar cycle is the Virgo full moon, February 24th, because that's going to be in your first house. And so a full moon in the first house brings emotions front and center. You may feel a little bit more vulnerable than usual, emotional, open, overwhelmed in a lot of ways. But the Sun and Mercury are going into the seventh house by that point. And so I think by the end of the month, it's a lot more of a focus on long-term partnership and commitment, and like, can you be committed to somebody or not, and so you'll probably open up to somebody about your ability to commit or not commit. Whether that, what, it doesn't have to be just a romantic partner, obviously, it could be a business partner or something. And then you will have Mars and Venus in the sixth by that point. And the Mars and Venus in the sixth is, I think, going to create some opportunities for new co-working relationships, and maybe new ways of working and making money off of your work. So I think that can be maybe disconnected from what I said, but I think it's still like a side theme. And then we have a Chiron North Node conjunction in the eighth, which really digs into like the sort of furthest reaches of the psyche for healing opportunities. So you may have to kind of think about, excavate things that you've like long repressed and bring those to the surface in order to heal. So that's what makes this Virgo full moon kind of intense, actually, is the fact that that Chiron and the North Node are sort of finally breaking through something in your conscious barrier and going backwards and being like, well, do you remember that thing that, upended your life 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever? And the full moon is like, aha, I realize that now. And I realize, by the way, how that maybe has been blocking me in a relationship, because Saturn can be a blockage. So for Virgos, you may have your own internal subconscious breakthrough that allows you to show up in a partnership more effectively, actually. So I think that is, I think that can be very positive for sure. And now let's see what Libras are going to go through in the month of February. So for Libras, you have the Aquarius new moon February 9th in your fifth house of creativity, romance, dating. And the new moon in the fifth, I think, could be a creative breakthrough. And it can show you how you're seeking to transform the way you create your creative hobbies, and even, the way that you think about romance, right? Because like Pluto in the fifth, I think, can really have some intense romantic stories there. But also, I have Pluto in the fifth natally, and I would say Pluto in the fifth can also create a lot of power on stage or in front of a camera or something like that. So for Libras, like maybe you're finding new ways to show up in front of a crowd with a certain like magnetism, that can be exciting. So maybe it's a date that you get really sucked into. Maybe it's again a creative hobby that totally transforms you. And then we also have Mars and Venus in the fourth house, which I think, I think that's positive for focusing on, if you have any financial matters related to property, investments in property, any financial matters within the family to sort out, you can do that around this new moon. And then we also have the square to Uranus happening in the eighth house. And that eighth house Uranus is creating maybe some random fluctuations in your finances, but like suddenly having a lot and suddenly not. But also there can be breakthroughs in the subconscious, or breakthroughs in terms of something esoteric or occulted. Suddenly, you understand something about the occult, or something in your subconscious. But that fifth house new moon, I think, is ultimately strong, ultimately fun, amusing, creative. And then we have a Virgo full moon, February 24th, and that's in your 12th house. So the Virgo full moon is a time that requires a little bit, I think, of solitude, isolation, internal reflection, spiritual kind of meditating, and also focusing on your mental health. And Mercury and Saturn and the Sun are going to be in your sixth house by that point. So that's also focusing on what is your commitment right now to your health, to your work. So by the end of the month, I think it's a little bit more focused on what are some of the nuts and bolts of, of my day to day, and how does that strengthen or weaken me currently. Now, at the same time, though, we do have Mars and Venus in the fifth, so you're going to continue to flourish creatively, which I think is great. And we have a Chiron North Node conjunction in your seventh house. So that to me is a sort of healing related breakthrough in a significant relationship. So it might not be it might not be felt as positive right away. It might be felt as a little bit painful or uncomfortable. But with the North Node Chiron, it's almost like either you're being freed, maybe it's like a blessing in disguise type of breakup, or maybe you're finally standing up for yourself in front of your partner, or to your partner, or you accept that, oh, maybe this person is just trying to help me, and I accept their help finally, and I welcome any healing that comes out of it. So for Libras, that Chiron North Node conjunction can be very tender and very disarming. But I think you have to let that process unfold because, like I said, as you'll discover, people are just trying to help you ultimately. So yeah, I think that's great. So now for Scorpios, the Aquarius new moon is on February 9th in your fourth house. And that's about your home, your family, property, and your internal foundation. So anytime there's a new moon in the fourth house, you may start to seek to move or look for new homes or apartments. You may think about your family differently or your role as a parent differently. Yeah, you may think about your property differently. And with Pluto now in your fourth, your family is transforming. Your property is transforming, or the way you invest in your property is transforming. So now you're starting to see these pieces come together. So with Pluto there, you may have a family member start to talk about a will or an inheritance or a property that they'll eventually hand over to you. So maybe some conversations around that are occurring. Or you'll think about your home differently, like I said, and it's squaring Uranus in the seventh. So, maybe you're unexpectedly looking to move in with somebody or move away from somebody, or you're asking a significant other, like, are you in or are you out with like me moving? Are you going to move in with me? Kind of thing. So it's a little confusing there. But it can also be exciting where someone is like, no, I do want to move in with you, or I want to live with you, or something like that. But certainly a lot of property related thoughts. And then Mars and Venus are in the third, so maybe you're continuing to write something, work on a book or a podcast, or um, you're just maybe continuing to learn about more, learn more about a certain subject, and whatnot. But I want to go to the Virgo full moon, which is, on February 24th. That's in your 11th house of groups and communities and social media. So by the end of February, maybe you are parting ways with a certain friend or community, or maybe you're just expressing yourself emotionally in front of a group or a friend group or on social media, even. And by that point, the Sun and Mercury are in the fifth house. So really like taking your creativity seriously as well. And maybe there's a performance there, honestly. Maybe some of you are performing in front of a crowd, because Saturn in the fifth, you may be trying to manifest something creative. You'll have Mars and Venus in the fourth by that point. So relating with your family, talking about money and investing with your family, things like that. And then Chiron and the North Node come together in your sixth, which may point out a health condition, or maybe will point out what you need to do to be healthier. And so, yeah, maybe you pick up a new fitness routine or diet or whatever in order to be healthier. So I think for Scorpios, big health transit is coming there. So now we have Sagittarius. The Aquarius new moon is in your third house, February 9th. And this will show you what new journey do you need to embark on in order to transform your thought process, your learning process, your educational path, your writing process, the way you think and just process information. Because now you have Pluto in your third. So like your mind and the faculties of your mind are going through a profound transition and transformation. And so with that new moon, it's kind of like you're ready to maybe start telling that story or teaching that class, or yeah, you're ready to start communicating about something that is very Aquarian, which is something unconventional or something political or something technological. And we have the square to Uranus, which is in the sixth house. So um, yeah, you may be seeking to learn about new technologies that give you more flexibility in your day to day. Maybe you're starting to commute differently to work or something, yeah. Mars and Venus are in the second, so a huge focus on building financial stability at this time. But yeah, I think it's an exciting new communications project, probably. Ultimately in the beginning of February. And then you have a Virgo full moon, February 24th. That's a big deal because it's in your 10th house. So for some Sages, by the end of February, you could be changing your job. You could be stepping into a role as a parent even. But a lot of you are changing your responsibilities. So you may not even have the same job in 4 weeks from now. And so, yeah, I think there's a job change for some of you, but also with that Aquarian third house, yeah, maybe some of those new ideas in early February are making you realize you don't want this job anymore that you used to have, or you feel like maybe you'll become obsolete in that job and you're going to start to look for a new job that incorporates these new technological ideas that you have. Mars and Venus go into the third by the end of February. So you're feeling very debate oriented, like you're ready to pick up a lot of debates and, discuss things with people, analyze things, maybe even do a little creative writing. And then the sun will be in the fourth by the end of the month. So you're really focused on property, where you want to live, or how you have to take care of someone in your family. I'm not going to lie, like some Sages, you might have to take care of someone in your family by the end of the month. And then there's a North Node Chiron conjunction in your fifth, which is going to be about how you heal yourself through your creativity. So if you have any creative hobbies, lean into those, because I think those will ultimately lead to your health breakthrough. And those of you with children, you may have a different way of connecting with them at that point that is more positive, and maybe if you have any issues with your children, like maybe you patch that up actually around this time. So now we have Capricorns. The Aquarius new moon is on February 9th in your second house. So for some Capricorns, maybe that is a new salary that you agree to, a new set of values that you adopt, a new outlook on your natural talents, a new sense of self-worth. But I think you're really just finding innovative ways to make money, or you're valuing new things like technology, or you're valuing Aquarian concepts like different political beliefs or something. Because now that Pluto's in your second, your values will transform, but also the way you make money will transform. So maybe this is the dawning of that new monetization scheme or whatever. Mars and Venus are still in your first, so you're continuing to sort out questions around relationships, significant relationships, creativity, and money, like I said. And then squaring Uranus in the fifth. So maybe some of you are starting to become more creative, actually. Because I think you're valuing creativity a little bit more highly than you used to. I think that's a big part of it. And then we have the Virgo full moon on February 24th. That's in your ninth house of travel. So I think a lot of Capricorns, you're going on like an overseas trip towards the end of February, or maybe you are starting a new educational path or closing off a chapter in your educational life, or you're adopting a new worldview and philosophy. But I think for a lot of you, it will be about traveling. And the Sun and Saturn and Mercury will be in your third house by that time. So again, like maybe getting serious about travel or planning a trip, or getting serious about writing something. So some Capricorns, maybe you're starting like a writing project or a publishing project. And then Mars and Venus are in your second house by the end of the month. So, starting to kind of get some momentum with your earnings and your salary and whatnot. And then we have the Chiron North Node conjunction in your fourth house of home and family. So like Cancer, as I talked about, Capricorns and Cancers, you may have some health issues come up in your family. I'm not saying it's all bad. I mean, sometimes it's like clarity that you needed, but there's probably like some sort of health issue that comes up for Capricorns, to be honest, like in the family. And I don't know if that would like prevent you from traveling. Hopefully not, but you definitely want to look out for that. And for others, maybe you're just like healing your relationship with someone in your family. So let me back up for the next two signs, for the last two signs here, because I want to get the new moon involved. So yeah, Aquarius. Let's talk about Aquarius. You have the new moon in your first house, February 9th. So for Aquarius, I mean, this is really your month in a lot of ways, because now that you have Pluto in your sign, like I said at the very beginning, Pluto does not present itself immediately. It doesn't present all of its plans, like this is what I'm going to do for you, and this is who you're going to become over the next 20 years. It's very secretive and clandestine, and yeah, it's very mysterious. But because we have the new moon here in the first and Mercury in the first, I think there's some clarity all of a sudden on like how you want to transform, or yeah, how you want to invest in your evolution. So I like this new moon, February 9th. Like this is the beginning of a new you, a new evolutionary journey, an exciting step forward into a more authentic and natural you, squaring Uranus in the fourth. Maybe you'll even be inspired to move homes or take a trip or something, or to change something about your home. Like maybe you're changing the vibe of your home to support the new you or something like that. And then Mars and Venus are in the 12th. So continuing to focus a little bit on behind the scenes relationships, or spiritual pursuits, and even maybe something creative that you like to do kind of on your own in solitude. And then we have the Virgo full moon, and that's February 24th, and that's in your eighth house. So the Virgo full moon, I think you're going to be bringing some closure to a financial situation, something with shared financial resources or an investment plan. Maybe you're offloading an investment or taking on an investment. Maybe you're digging into your psyche differently, but I think it's a lot more, it's a lot more about investing. Saturn and the Sun will be, and Mercury will be in the second house. So you're very focused yet again on value creation. Venus and Mars are in your first. So at that time, you are initiating tons of new relationships and what of any kind. And I think that's exciting. So it's a very social month for you. And so welcome that. And then you have a Chiron North Node conjunction in your third. And so maybe writing will be healing for you because of that, or maybe you're having a very long overdue conversation with someone about how they hurt you and how you didn't appreciate that. And maybe you're going to get an apology from someone, or maybe you'll apologize to somebody else. But there's some kind of conversation there that's very necessary. It's kind of tough, but I think it'll help you form a closer bond with somebody. And again, for some of you, it's just going to be about writing or something like that. And then we close off with Pisces. So Pisces, you have the Aquarius new moon, February 9th in your 12th house. And this is very much about places of solitude and rest and recuperation, but also spirituality. And it's your dream life and your dreams. So now that Pluto's in your 12th, it's going to slowly transform your spirituality, your dreams, your connection to your past lives, you're peering into now. And so the new moon in the 12th could be a new vision of your spirituality. It could be, even like a new sleep cycle that you want to, adhere to. A new outlook on mental health and how, there's different and new tactics to take ownership of that. But I think it's a very spiritual new moon. You may even connect with spirit guides. Mars and Venus are conjunct basically in your 11th house. So you are socializing quite a bit in the first week of the month. And then that new moon is squaring Uranus. So there are some ideas, maybe dreams that you have or spiritual visions that you have that can funnel into your third house of writing and communication. So maybe you're just getting epic downloads and all these great ideas that you want to write a story about or start a podcast about, etc. And then we have a Virgo full moon, Feb 24. That's a big deal because in your 7th house of committed relationships. So a full moon in the 7th means you may be cutting off a relationship, but you also might just be emotionally bonding with someone in a relationship and being more vulnerable with them and being ready to commit to them because you have Saturn in your 1st house. So this is a time of commitment and focus, and it's not a time of being superficial or whimsical. I mean, it's really a serious time. So for Pisces, you may be merging with somebody emotionally, and then you'll have Mars and Venus in your 12th at that time. So there could be a devotional, almost sacrificial energy to that relationship. But you do want to make sure you're watching out for your sleep patterns at that time because Mars in the 12th, can mess with our sleep hygiene. And finally, Chiron and the North Node are conjunct in your 2nd house. So you're working to heal your relationship to money, possessions, and values. I mean, you may value healing differently, but I think for a lot of you, it's about feeling like you're more, feeling like you have a good, healthy relationship to money. Like you're not overspending it, you're not worried about it, like you're really like owning up to your financial health this month. But I think, overall for Pisces, it's I actually like the first new moon of the year or of the month for you here. Usually a new moon in the 12th can be kind of passed without incident. But with that square to Uranus, as a Pisces, like really pay attention to your dreams around February 9th, because that can have a direct influence on your words, your thoughts, your writing, and your ideas. So I think that's exciting. So what did we talk about today? I think this is really important to summarize. So Pluto is an Aquarius, but Pluto does not reveal its true intentions right away. So think about February as us sort of picking away, chiseling away at Pluto's mission for us through the lens of the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, all passing through Aquarius at some point. And it will give us more clues as to what is our transformation that's coming. And like I said, I don't know if I fully baked that concept for Taurus and Aries right at the beginning. So just to bake that, for Aries, it's going to give you a window, February is, into the types of communities you want to transform into or through, or how you want to transform those communities yourself. So Aries, you're going to start to meet people who can usher in your transformation. For Taurus, you're going to start to get career opportunities that facilitate your eventual career transformation. And then I think by Gemini, I started to get into that rhythm of, for Geminis, very much about changing your philosophy and outlook on things and so on. With Cancer, changing your investment strategy. So February is really like giving us more of a thrust into our transformation. And it's going to really illuminate Aquarian concepts. AI, politics, technology, egalitarianism, humanitarianism, collectivism, and industry is just undergoing massive change. But don't forget about what I said at the beginning, which is that maybe on a meta scale, like as a broad theme, like science, we're seeing some kind of like scientific questions and also like long-term like chronic health conditions coming up. So definitely watch out for that. But otherwise, I think February is a pretty exciting month. So if you want a reading from me, I still have openings in April of this year. Also, I'm teaching astrology classes. So if you want to take my class. I'm teaching intro January 27th and 28th. I'm teaching intermediate the following weekend and advanced finally on that last day. I think that's like February 4th or 5th or something. But the schedule is all down below. Also, my horoscopes for 2024 are still available. You still should get those if you haven't yet. And also, I'm hosting a retreat in Norway in July, and there's still time to sign up for that. So again, thank you for checking this out. Do let me know in the comments how accurate any of this was for what you are planning for the month ahead or experiencing. But I wish you luck and all the best of luck in February. Take care.